So today I'm going to give you 5 ideas that'll help you become more productive. Something that I've learned after so many years of watching YouTubers like Ali Abdaal, Matt D'Avella, Better Ideas, reading books like Atomic Habits, taking courses on Skillshare. Something that I've learned is that one idea that really resonates with you can completely change the way that you work on a daily basis. And I'm telling you this because all of these productivity ideas I'm going to give you today are things that I've picked up over the years, but I'm still using in my client calls. I'm still using when I'm creating creative content, when I'm following my daily habits. Like, I use these ideas on a daily basis, and they're some of the best that I've learned. They're very simple, so nothing I'm going to say today is going to be overly complex, but I think that's why they're so effective, because sometimes the simplest truths that we learn can be the most effective. So without further ado, let's talk about the 5 ideas that'll help you become more productive. So the first idea that I learned that helped me become incredibly productive was the idea that you don't need motivation to get things done. Many of us think that we need to feel like doing something before we actually do it, meaning that before going for a run, we gotta feel like running before we actually put our shoes on, before we put our gym clothes on, and go out for that 30-minute run. The reality is that we don't need to feel like doing something before doing it. I don't need to feel like shooting a YouTube video to show up, set up the tripod, and start talking to the camera. I don't need to feel like writing before sitting down to write. I don't need to feel like making a cold call to pick up the phone and call a prospect. Once I learned this idea, I became incredibly productive because no longer was I relying on my feelings, which tend to fluctuate over time. You know, some days I feel great, some days I feel bad, some days I feel motivated. I wasn't relying on that anymore. I was just thinking, what is the task that I need to do? And I just started to do it. So the first idea that's gonna help you become incredibly productive is you don't need motivation to get things done. So the second idea that helped me become incredibly productive was that the good plan you follow is better than the perfect plan you quit. So many times we try to create perfect plans that on paper sound great, but when we actually try to follow them, we end up falling short. An example is if you're trying to start a workout routine and you say, I'm gonna work out 5 times this week, Monday through Friday, and then take the weekends off. On paper, that sounds great, but if you haven't worked out in several years, then the likelihood of you following that plan over a couple weeks is very low because you haven't developed the habit yet. I found that if I can create a good enough plan as opposed to a perfect plan, meaning saying for the next month I'm gonna work out twice a week, you know, Mondays and Wednesdays, and then take the rest of the days off. And then once I do that for 21 days, I'm gonna add a 3rd day and then eventually get to 5 days. That to me sounds like something I'll follow over the long run as opposed to this perfect plan of working out 5 times a week. This is something that I see happen in so many different areas. People say they're gonna make 100 cold calls a day for their business. People say that they're going to shoot 1 YouTube video a week and they end up falling short because, again, on paper, the plan sounds perfect. It sounds like it's exactly what we need to do. But again, if you cannot be consistent with that plan, then the truth is that the plan to begin with is already flawed, because on paper it sounds great. When you put it out to the real world, then you're not gonna follow it. So anytime I'm creating a new plan, anytime I'm working on a project, anytime I'm embarking on a new endeavor, I always think, what is a realistic plan that I can create, that I can follow over several months, even several years? So anytime I'm creating habits, anytime I'm working on a plan, I always think about how I can follow this over several years as opposed to the next few weeks. The third idea that helped me become incredibly productive was the 2-minute rule. So the 2-minute rule is super easy. It basically states if you can do something in 2 minutes or less, just get it done. Don't write it down on a piece of paper. Don't put it in your to-do list. Just right in the moment, get it done. I think this was incredibly powerful because before I would always write down, remember to email John, or remember to take out the trash, or remember X, Y, and Z. I always used to write these things down when I easily had 2 minutes to spare to get it done in the moment. So the fourth idea that helped me become incredibly productive was David Allen's quote, "Your mind is for having ideas, but not for holding them." I remember the first time that I learned about this quote, it completely changed the way that I work on a daily basis because no longer was I relying on my brain to remember things like people's birthdays or things that clients were telling me to do or projects I needed to follow up on. Like, I stopped relying on my brain to remember all of these things, and realize that it's literally impossible for me to remember every single thing that happens within 24 hours. So if I can't rely on my brain to remember all of these things, I need to start to rely on external systems like Apple Notes, Todoist, Notion. One of the habits I created for myself was to immediately write things down as they come in. So ideas that I have go into Apple Notes, tasks that people give me go into Todoist, and I make it a habit of reviewing them every single day at 5:30. Now, I still follow the 2-minute rule, meaning that if I can get something done immediately, I'll do it if I have the 2 minutes, but I still make it a habit of capturing all these different ideas because it ensures that they get done. And the fifth and final idea that's helped me become more productive was to optimize for my starting line, not my finish line. I got this idea from James Clear and it's been so helpful. Something that I've learned is that if you can make it easy to start a task, then you increase the chances that you actually complete it. For example, if you make it easy to read a book by putting it in an easy to reach place, then you're probably going to read it for more than just a few minutes. You'll probably even read for maybe 30 minutes or an hour. If you make it easy to go for a run by having your running shoes, ready to go, and maybe even sleeping in your gym clothes overnight, then you'll probably end up going for a run first thing in the morning. Like, you gotta find ways to make it easy to get into the task, because what you're trying to push through is the initial resistance that we all feel when we want to get a task done. Stephen Pressfield calls it resistance, which is that thing that we all feel when we want to shoot a YouTube video, or we want to read a book, or we want to make a cold call. Like, we all feel this kind of friction that kind of pulls us back a little bit and tries to get us to do something else. If you make it easy to just start the task, then you can push through that initial resistance so that you can get the task done. So those are the 5 ideas that helped me become more productive. I really hope that this video was helpful. If you got just one idea from this that will help you today, then I encourage you to like, subscribe, maybe share this video with a friend if you think it'll be helpful. And like I always say, wherever you're at, I hope you have an amazing rest of your day. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.